What's going on, guys? Welcome back. We have a brand new season of Marvel Snap, and it's the Eternals. We have a lot of crazy cards with pretty powerful effects, and Alex and I are going to break them all down, talk about the synergy, and most importantly, which ones should you have your eye on. Gilgamesh is going to kick things off this coming Tuesday alongside Thena, and we have a lot of thoughts here. We're going to talk about them all today on this episode of the Snapchat. And as always, I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Alex Coccia. May is gone. June is here. The Eternal season is about to be live, and we have ourselves an exciting episode of the Snapchat. How you doing, bud?
Buddy, I'm doing great. I'm actually really excited for this next upcoming season. I think the cards are pretty damn cool. I'm excited to rewatch Eternals, actually. It was a movie that I enjoyed, and I want to watch it again. And while I was, watching the trailer, I was like, we actually don't have Icarus in this season. I don't know if anyone noticed that, but, he's literally, he's, the Eternal, kind of, and he's just not in it, which I thought was a little weird. I don't know if that is derailing our conversation already, but Icarus is not in it.
I think there's going to be 2 Eternal seasons, if I were to take a guess. Yeah, I was shocked at kind of who they picked and whatnot, and they're probably, I don't know, saving for upcoming seasons. If you haven't seen Eternals, I think it's really good. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot to fit into a short movie, but the content's there, and I think it kind of got slept on as far as, a pretty good movie goes. Again, it's been Broad's favorite. I think that's a bit of a hot take by a long stretch. But either way, really recognizable characters in Marvel, and it's cool to have a season with that, coming off a season with not a ton of recognizable characters, but one of the better seasons that we've had, and we enter this one. Bro, you're never going to guess what I'm doing this upcoming weekend. In fact, so many people don't know this, and now I guess it's finally I can talk about it. I am now Reverend Cozy to you, Alex. Reverend, that's what I need you to refer me as in the Snapchat, in the comments. I am marrying Dexter this weekend to his lovely fiance Lils, and dude, I am not a reverend. I went to becomeareverend.com, and here I am, bud.
Wait, is this serious? You're actually marrying, you're performing their marriage?
Straight up, I'm the dude in the middle. I'm gonna be in their wedding photos forever. Cozy Snap, Reverend Cozy. I asked if I could wear a robe. They said no. I have to wear a suit. I was hoping to wear something cool. Yeah, I don't know.
Wizard hat and robe?
Yeah, a wizard hat would be dope. Yeah, he's gonna hear the Snapchat and be like, you know what? We found someone else. I'm thinking of throwing in a couple, maybe Cerebro. There's going to be 3 people that even know Snap in the audience, and I might throw something in there every now and then. Maybe say, oh, Snap before their vow. Something to, just a slight piss off to Dexter for all the love he's given me over the years. But yeah, man, Reverend, I'm going to be marrying them this weekend.
Man, I got to get you to come to Canada. Maybe do a ceremony where you renew my vows with my wife. I think that'd be beautiful. We could live stream it.
I'm just saying, if YouTube doesn't work out, I'm just gonna go down the Reverend path. Just kind of drive around, marry people. It's gonna be it's the new thing. Maybe I make a channel on it. What if I got a van and I drove around and it was mobile weddings, right then and there? You can join.
What if you had an 18-wheeler, but the whole back was a chapel? And then people would step into the 18-wheeler, the whole backside. And it's a long chapel with seats in it, and everyone can sit in it. So you could literally back into people's driveways and officiate a wedding.
What if we drove too for efficiency? I'd be like, where's your honeymoon? And we just take them there and do the vows on the road. You can drive.
Gosh, what if you converted? Okay, so it's a chapel, and then everyone's yay, they get married. They exit the chapel, they take pictures. When they come back to your semi-truck, your 18-wheeler, you've now converted the box into a party bus, and then you drive them while techno's blaring, and then they just party up.
This sounds cheap. I think we should do it. It's what, $500,000 to get this started, and then I'm gonna pitch this to Dexter. Be like, hey, forget the wedding deposit. Weddings on the go. Cozy Weddings on the go is what I'll call it. TM. It's already trademarked before you guys can take it. So that's what I'm doing. But what we're doing today is talking about the Eternal Seasons ranking and talking about every card coming out. Alex, what are we talking about on your side of the Snapchat?
All right, Cozy, it's one of our favorite episodes of the year. We go back in time, we take a look at our rankings and how they played out for the May season. We're going to be holding ourselves accountable and discussing our cards in the past season. We'll also be discussing the IGN Live announcement. Now, Second Dinner has hinted that there is a big announcement coming this coming weekend. We have no idea what it is, but that doesn't mean we can't speculate. And then finally, we have our Snapchat mailbag.
Looking forward to talking about all of it, man. And especially, again, strong season looking back at what we said, we have a very interesting season. It's tough because I think, without spoiling our verdicts, I think it's obviously one of the best ones we've had. So, like, comparable, it's going to be tough. But very unique cards with interesting abilities. And I think we have a lot of great cards at that. Remember, guys, we try to keep it 1 star, or 1 card gets 5-star. And that's kind of the goal here as we rank them. Whether it's just, 0.5s, not 0.5s. But we do start with the season pass card, my friend, in Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh is a 5 cost. He did get reworked a little bit from what he was. 7 power on reveal, plus 1 power for each of your other cards in play with increased power. So that just means anything, not like Shaw. It doesn't have to be permanent power. It's just anything with power. Let's start with the star rating, bud.
I'm leaning towards a 4-star card. I feel like this card looks like it's going to be pretty good. It has a couple challenges, particularly at being a 5 cost, whereas like something like Blue Marvel, which would obviously benefit it, also being 5 cost. So then like they kind of step on each other's toes a bit. But I think this is pretty legit. I do, however, think it has a lower ceiling than that of Blink, like in my opinion. Like I saw Blink as like being a breakthrough card for certain archetypes. Yeah. I don't know if Gilgamesh does that, but I'd be happily surprised if I'm wrong.
Blink's a good comparison to a lot of cards we're going to talk about today because she's kind of the new, like, the ceiling, right? Like, can you match what Blink does? And we know what Blink did to the meta. Gilgamesh is one of those that I think will age like fine wine. I think he's going to introduce, in my opinion, a kind of a new play style. You do, looking at his stuff, you do have to dip into his kit. You can't really have him as too much of a plug-and-play card. You kind of have to dig into his kit to really get the value here. If you get 4 cards even, you're looking at that 5/11 that we were kind of, going wild about with Namora, and that was just her, like, low potential. Gilgamesh, yeah, you give him a 4, you said? It is close. I think I'm going to go, as of this moment, a 3.5, and I'll probably say here soon a 4. I think he's got that potential. Let's start with kind of his best synergies, and I already pulled it up when you were talking about him. I think this is, even though it's the same cost, the most notable. We have super easy ways like Hope Summers now to get to, playing cards easier. Blue Marvel, guys. So you play Blue Marvel, and no matter what you played before, they're going to get their increase, right? So if you have low-cost cards out there, or even like easy to curve out cards, you're getting yourself a pretty solid Gilgamesh right out the bat. And, a lot of people kind of go to different... Blue Marvel fits in a lot of different decks, and probably one of my favorite synergies with him is Iron Lad, because he's already working with some of these other cards that he likes to play with, and certainly having Iron Lad with maybe Gilgamesh or Iron Lad to get an early Blue Marvel is going to be pretty advantageous. But Alex, none other than, and we thought this a little bit, Sasquatch just came out. We thought he was going to help Zoo. I think this could truly be that next tier for Zoo. A lot of cheap cards you can play. You have Kazar, that is Blue Marvel, okay? You have the Blue Marvel on top of that. But Alex, I think this is it, man. You go with a simple Squirrel Girl or Shauna, you're having 3 cards, 4 cards, 7 cards out. Boost them up. Gilgamesh is the finisher.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I was leaning towards Kazar being one of the better synergies because you had the option of playing Gilgamesh on curve if required. But it's notable that although he won't get a double buff if you have Kazar out and you play Blue Marvel, and then on turn 6 you play Gilgamesh, what's very notable, and I love that you mention it, is something as simple as Squirrel Girl into Gilgamesh will give him additional procs, because you can play them on the same turn on turn 6. And the squirrels will come out, get buffed, of course, if your order is correct. And then you play Gilgamesh as the finisher, right? Yep. Now, I think one of the challenges here is, are you going to be able to manage the macro side, the space side? Yes. Because, like, you only got 4 slots per location, and Gilgamesh is going to want to occupy 1. But, like, there is a lot of power potential with this card, in particular for Zoo. I agree 100%.
I like the Squirrel Girl take. I didn't think about that. Like, you already have the Kazar out, then you throw the SG out, and it's, we love those 5 or 1s and 5 plays. We saw that with, like, Namora. Even Blink, we've seen that where you can swap out a 1 at the last turn, maybe a Nebula, whatever. Yeah, the things that, there's a lot to like about him. I think this might be one of his better decks because it's a true deck to him. I said a 3.5 earlier. I think by the end of the season, he could be a 4 because of some cards that are coming out to help him out as well. He isn't going to be on the level of Blink. I think we can all know that. But I also don't think he's going to be as pigeonholed as something like Shaw or even Scar. He feels like a better Baron Zemo for that matter as well. We're going to have to see kind of how he adjusts. But yeah, Zoo was my immediate thing that I liked right away because you have the potential. If you know how to do board space, you have a big potential here with an easy counter of Killmonger, but so be it. Counters exist. The other thing I thought about is he's just straight up, no matter what, just a better Black Panther in my eyes, right? Think about what Black Panther does. You've got the one-trick pony of what he does well, and that's typically playing Wong on 4, Black Panther on 5, Arnim Zola on 6. I think straight up, I would just rather play potentially Wong on 4. I don't know how many cards you'll have boost up, so you'll have to figure out how to do that. But even if you don't do the Wong, even if you just focus on Black Panther's kind of niche, playing him in a lane, getting his bonuses, whatever they may be. Let's say it's +4, +5, and then you can Arnim Zola that. It's kind of the same thing, but almost better and more widespread because you can do different things with the synergy.
You're literally queuing up the Reddit posts of like the Gilgamesh, Mom, I want Gilgamesh. We have Gilgamesh at home. And Gilgamesh at home is Black Panther, right? Like, it's 100% right. Like, the loops you have to jump through to get Black Panther to actually pop off, it's insane. And it goes to show you just how weak Black Panther is right now. Okoye and Nakia have seen time in Surfer decks with Sebastian Shaw, and they have not performed that poorly. Like 54% win rate, not popping off, but pretty legitimate. I know because I played a ton of it. But Gilgamesh is just naturally so much higher as a baseline than Black Panther. Black Panther starts off in a way where it's like you need to invest so much more. I feel like Gilgamesh will be a much more natural fit with a higher ceiling. Actually, I don't know if I would say that. You get the pop off. Black Panther's ceiling is insane. It is insane, but I think the floor is way higher.
He's all about the ceiling, and I think like if they wanted to buff him, just lean into that more because people know now if you play Black Panther, like get out of it. It's not like he's like, oh my god, he Arnim Zola the Black Panther. What just happened? But on that note, I just think having a backup plan. Black Panther, there's no backup plan. And in fact, you just said it. Playing him on 6 is great. Playing Black Panther on 6 is kind of bad. What are some other things that he does well, Alex? I think Ironheart, we've seen this, man. We're getting so many different on reveal packages. Ironheart into Wong, into Gilgamesh, into Odin. You're going to have the Ironheart retrigger, get everything all boosted up again twice because the Wong. And then you're going to have Gilgamesh twice do his thing. More than that because of Odin. So that's like really heavy winning one lane, yes, but you're going to be boosting a ton on another. There's a lot of possibility here.
Another thing that's worth noting about Gilgamesh, and something that I'm trying to evaluate better as I take a look at new cards, are locations. This came to the forefront with Mockingbird, who I actually think is going to be a winner with Gilgamesh as well, because I think Mockingbird's going to benefit from the type of decks Gilgamesh is going to go into. We talked about Squirrel Girl on turn 6, but you can very well play Squirrel Girl on turn 1, and then have a very, very inexpensive, Mockingbird to come out later on, which then benefits the Blue Marvel, etc., etc. But what I'm trying to say is that Gilgamesh, think about like Xandar, which gives a location. Everyone gets +1. Muir Island, +1s after every single turn. Wakanda Embassy. There are tons of locations that buff cards, and Gilgamesh is going to benefit from that.
There's a lot of them, like more than we need to eventually like have a chart of like there's this many destroy locations. There's this many like destroy just does well because of the sheer amount of like there's only they've scaled them back a bit, but the pure offense on defense kind of mentality, like the opponents can't use those locations at all to their benefit. You're getting such a massive increase here with Gilgamesh. I do agree. Do we think he's going to... I think there's going to be versions of Patriot, versions of Silver Surfer with Gilgamesh. Those are obviously other ways to boost up cards. You got the classic Forge into Brood into Absorbing Man. I think that's just an easy, no-brainer, great Gilgamesh home. But I think that's going to work when we have a card that comes out later this month. And I think that's actually the design for him in the whole Surfer package. And then you can use him with Shaw as well.
You must be some sort of telepath, like Jean Grey or Emma Frost or something, because honestly, you read my mind. Patriot Surfer, I think, is a great spot for Gilgamesh, 100%, for the exact reason you said. Boosted Broods, you have the Absorbing Man, but I also think that those decks could take advantage of someone who we have forgotten about, and that's America Chavez.
Yeah.
You could, in theory, use America Chavez to, take a chance at boosting some of those key cards, but then in theory, it's also a +1 on the side for Gilgamesh. So once America Chavez, you're like, oh, this card sucks, but all of a sudden, now you're boosting the card you're playing or drawing, Gilgamesh also gets a +1 as well. So you might see a comeback of that Patriot Surfer style of deck with an America Chavez slotted in at 1.
I like it, man. I've got two other... Yeah, Chavez, by the way, is a card that just is often just forgot about ever since they took her away from that 6-cost spot. My question is... Well, let me say this. I've got two super spicy takes on the Gilgamesh that he can work into, but I'll give you the floor. Do you have anything else to wrap up your side of Gilgamesh and his synergy?
Yeah, I think that people are kind of sleeping on just how many cards get that boosted power. I'm going to name off some examples. Kitty, Angela, Dazzler, right? Like tons. And in theory, like I actually see Silver Surfer coming out with like Sarah out, Gilgamesh in, which I think is going to be pretty interesting. But like
Mm,
even a not Sarah, sorry, even an Angela Kitty Elsa deck. I'm like, those cards are constantly being buffed,
that's a
right?
great point. Yeah.
Angela, then you have the Kitty, so that's two right off the top.
Elsa.
Exactly, right? And then all of a sudden, Gilgamesh is actually pretty huge. I think there's a lot of boosted power in like a Silky Smooth style package.
Dude, yeah, it's funny. I didn't even like, I don't know why, put together that, yeah, Kitty Pryde's just like a natural way to get up, and Angela, that's 2 cards right off the bat. And we've seen it. It's just not hard to boost up cards fast and get more out kind of than ever. So that is a great point. You know, I always like to look at the crazy chaos that can happen, and sometimes that chaos turns into a deck that does work. We saw it with the Namora and the Colossus Cosmo builds. Here are my 2. First of all, we already mentioned Wong. I do want to bring him up again. Tell me this. If you do have a package that works out and you play down enough early cards and you get Wong out, do you think there's a world where Gilgamesh plays on Wong on 5, boosts up to God knows what? You could even do your Squirrel Girl, you know, whatever. But most likely you do Wong, Gilgamesh into Taskmaster. Is this a new Taskmaster card with kind of insane potential? Because if you get the Wong down, you're looking at, I mean, how big of a card? I mean, he could get up to like, what, 18, 17? It's probably not as good as Shuri, maybe, but I do think there's a world.
Trying to think, because if you think about like the high end of like even just Typhoid Mary, Red Skull, all those cards with Shuri, I don't know if he can get that high, but you're not wrong, because he'd benefit from a Wong package, and you could even then Zola that, right? Like you could literally you could replace the Black Panther from those types of decks, and you get the best of both worlds. You got the Zola play, or you got the Taskmaster play. I think it's pretty interesting. I don't know if it gets high enough though. Like you got me thinking about what that deck would look like. I love when you put these ideas in my head, because the wheels start churning, right? The wheels start churning.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, you got, let's say best case scenario, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say like 5 cards out there that are boosted up at some point. You play him down on Wong. Let's maybe call it 4. He gets +4, goes to an 11, +4. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how big he'll actually get. But I do think it could also just work with Sherry, because Sherry's boosting cards, and we'll have to see kind of if that is even a thing. Or like the either or option. You play Namora or him or whatever, depending on the scenario at hand. Here's my even more spicy one that I might be cooking a little too much here, man, but hear me out. Ongoing. You got a bunch of ongoing cards. You have Spectrum. Problem with that is you can't play Spectrum till turn 6, right? How do you do that? We talk about this card being slept on all the time, Alex, and this could be a time where you have a defensive card playing the part in the role. You could play Super John on 4, Gilgamesh on 5. Is this chef's kiss? Spectrum on 6. You boost all those ongoings that you had, okay? Or at least a good amount of them. Gilgamesh comes out at the end there. It's boosted up.
I like it. I love it.
Kind of cool,
Like,
huh?
honestly, I'm a big fan of Supergiant decks. Like, one of my best cube rate decks that I play personally is a Supergiant based deck. I love it, and I think this card is like, it needs a couple more synergies to really pop off. And even to your point, like you could even consider Supergiant into Taskmaster, and then create a pop off for your Gilgamesh, right? Like, so there's a couple different lines you could maybe approach with.
Yeah, I like it. I think there's a lot of potential here, and Supergiant's just a natural anti-synergy to things like Loki and Sarah and Jane Foster. There's a lot of decks that she single-handedly counters while you're also building up potential, and you'd be surprised how much, like, just look at the last 2 seasons of great 5-cost cards we've had that are essential to play on curve for the most part too. Like Blink, she shuts down a ton of great cards. That's my cook of the season. But yeah, Alex brought up a great point, guys. There's a lot more things that boost than you think. Even Carnage, Venom, Destroy decks, even though very tight on synergy and how those decks kind of work in general. You have that Ecosphere. You can have Morbius with discard. There's a lot out there. And I think Gilgamesh ultimately is going to be kind of an all-in boosted deck, but it'll be cool to see him splash into these other options.
It's also notable here that one of the things I was thinking about, I would like your take on with Gilgamesh, is I had this thought of like, okay, Scar and Sebastian Shaw, very niche, very focused, right?
Yep.
Even Blink is pretty focused as a card. I think it just does a remarkable job at what it does. Gilgamesh has much more of a wide application. I don't think it's nearly as wide as Hope Summers, but I'd like your opinion on Hope Summers as a season pass card versus something like Gilgamesh. The idea that they have this wider applicability, which I feel like gives them an opportunity to have more of an impact on the meta.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen it, right? If they have things like Hope Summers, even Blink, And he reminds me of Blink in just different ways. Like it's a single card that can be used, very versatile. Maybe not the best comparison. Blink is miles better. But yeah, I mean, that's the key, and that's what we talk about here. Baron Zemo, cool card, cool interaction, great value, very pigeonholed. Very, even with the stats. I remember when he came out, I'm like, I don't know if we're going to see this in like 4 months. I just don't. Like, it's just very pigeonholed and kind of the flavor of the month. When you get season pass cards that aren't flavors, but truly like deck builders, things like Gilgamesh potentially could slot in there. But then you have ones like Hope that are instantly great. So yeah, I mean, those are the ones you definitely want to go all in on. And it looks like we have about like a 1-to-2 ratio on that, right? Like they do one obvious, 2 fun cards, and then it goes back and forth. With that, let's go ahead and move on to Thena, Alex. And this is going to be the double new card week. This will be our first spotlight week. And Thena is a card that I've seen a lot of opinion on, and I'm excited to break her down. Thena is pretty simple in concept. 2 cost, 1 power card after each turn, plus 3 power if you played exactly 2 cards, all right, after each turn. So a lot of interesting mechanics going on here. I do believe Thena does count herself in the later rounds if you're able to play her and one other card. Let's start. Let's go. Star ratings. What do you got?
I'm nervous about this one.
Yeah, I am too.
I originally had it as a 4, but I think I'm going to drop it down to a 3. I think I'm going to stay at 3. The reason why I say this is because I think that the condition is going to be trickier to pull off than expected. If you don't have Kitty Pryde. If you have Kitty Pryde, I think you have a snap condition on your hands. But I think most decks will have a trickier time playing exactly 2 cards on each turn. But I mean, again, then the question is like, how many times do you really need to proc her to get value? I don't know. This card I feel so weird about.
That is why I'm tempted. I think I'm gonna go 4 because of just the value. It's tough because we look at value and how hard it is to achieve, but 2/7 is pretty easy, you would think, to achieve with this one. Especially, now here's the thing, to your point, kind of pigeonholed. Kitty Pryde is by far the package, and you're amplifying that deck by so much, which is why I want to give her such a great rating, because that deck is everywhere. I mean, we've seen that so much. Little mover decks, bounce decks, there's going to be decks that can that can work with her. But man, a 2/7 is so good with not a lot of drawback that already floats into something that you're trying to do. It just comes down to how hard is this to pull off reliably on a consistent basis. And so I do think this is probably one of the harder cards to rank, but it reminds me of Namor in the sense that people are just like, yeah, you can't do crazy things with it, but the base value is pretty much there. And I love that about her. And I do think she's going to fit into more decks than you might think.
Yeah, like it's very, very hard to evaluate. Conditions like this can be tricky to read in advance, right? The deck building is going to be a major consideration, right? Very efficient decks that are able to utilize this will be important. Like the line that I see is Kitty Pryde on 1, Angela 2, Thena, Kitty Pryde on 3. That buffs Thena as she goes down while hitting the Kitty Pryde. Omega turn.
Yep.
But then it's like, okay, what do you do then? Right now, you're still playing the Kitty Pryde, but then like, what do you play? Like
Hope Summers probably
Jeff,
into
Hope Summers,
you'd
right?
have to go Hope into Kitty, into Vision into Kitty, something like that. Like where you're already working and you're already getting that deck is. You know what? I'm bumping down to 3.5. I agree. I don't think I can give her a 4-star in practicality because I'm just thinking of what I gave Gilgamesh, which was a 3.5, going to about a 4.
You mentioned balance, but like I was thinking about balance. I don't think balance wants to always play exactly 2 cards either. Like, there's often times where they're like, well, I just beasted all this stuff. I want to play more than 2 because if I what am I just leave this Iceman sitting in my hand because I want to give +3 to Thena, I guess. Like, I think that especially with Beast now being on reveal for the next turn, like you're often going to want to play your stuff down. And Thena coming out on turn 2 or 3 means like you kind of run out of time quickly to get her value. But at the same time, Calling Wing's a 2/4, and I think that's nice stats. I play Calling Wing with pretty good confidence. So like, but I mean, I guess she's hitting something too. Like she has that synergy. So like Thena at 2/7 is pretty good, isn't it?
It's gonna, yeah, man, right? It's gonna be so tough because you're gonna go into situations too where you have the optimal play, but then you can also play 2 cards, and it's like you almost need to not care about playing the Thena. She's great. She's still playable late game, which I do like. Again, I think that's just solid. Sarah, let's just talk about it. I think Sarah decks are one of the greater examples of what you can utilize with Thena. Ravonna Renslayer, she's a 1. I think Ravonna and Sarah are naturals. You could play probably 2 cards. You can get around there. The value in what she has makes me want to give her a higher ranking. The consistency has me scared. Truly going to take some good amount of testing and diversity. Because on release, I don't want to just play a Kitty Pride deck and be like, yeah, it works. I want to see kind of more into it. And Thena potentially just has it, man. Again, any other synergies outside the main ones? I think move cards, Ravona, and Sarah. Those are the ones I had.
I mean, the one that I have, I think, is Hope Summers is going to be critical to these decks for the same reason why Sarah, right? Like, Hope Summers gives you that opportunity to generate that additional energy, which can be used to drop more than one card. But, like, I got to push back a little bit. Like, I want to be wrong, but I have a hard time envisioning this card being wildly successful outside of that, that Kitty Pride Elsa package. Like, there are very few cards. I mean, Loki, maybe Loki, but then, like, do you really want to play 2 cards with Loki on turn 5 and 6?
Yeah. Again, I think, like, when we used to evaluate cards, we've talked about this before, we, like, just saw the value, and we were just like, whoa, all the time. Upside, if it happened.
Black Swan, 5 stars.
Oh, my, who would say? No, seriously, though, I think when Black Swan's actually a good example. Like, it kind of pigeonholes you to do certain things. On paper, it could be, we could look silly. This could be an obvious 4-star. We're going to talk about that next week on your side. We're going to be like, yeah, okay. This just worked no matter what. And wow, I played a lot more too. I haven't paid attention to how many times I just played 2 cards. But I would imagine in that one package, kind of like Nocturne, which we said about her, if you play that style of deck, you're going to have a card. And this card will age like fine wine, like we always say. I think there's going to be more archetypes that come out and things that come out. So you do have that going for you. 2-4, 2-7, high potential. We'll see. We'll see if it works out. All right, buddy. Next up, we've got Makkari. And when we did the original, it was a couple months ago, like, hey, this season's coming out, and they were a little bit different. You liked the card. I didn't like the card. You liked the card. So I'm going to actually give this one more to you, but we'll start with the star ratings. If you don't know, 3 cost, 3 power card after the turn runs from your hand to a random location, if possible. Alex, you sticking where you gave? I don't even remember what you gave her, but I know you liked her. Do you like her still?
This is funny. I liked her. I don't remember liking her.
Oh my God. Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I did. I did. Okay. Well, because I don't like her anymore.
She was a temporary fling. Just a little, had a little crush on her, and it's faded
a little
already.
bit of a crush, maybe.
Okay. All right.
But I think it's the weakest card of the season.
Yeah. No question. The weakest card of the season. When I think it was on the trailer, they're like, it's great in Silver Surfer. It's like,
no, it's not.
Same as 7,000 other cards. And also, no, I'm fine. There are niche situations where it's cool, if you happen to. The problem is with Surfer, you almost never, you're emptying your hand out, right? You're good on energy. She might introduce a new, more not greedy Surfer, but you can you cut the Sarah, as we've talked about, and kind of go that approach. Who cares? If she was a 4, maybe with better stats, but yeah, I don't know, man. Proxima Midnight is just worlds better than this card.
Oh, there's no question. Now, if you want to cope a little bit, if you go back to the these Sarah Surfer decks with Sebastian Shaw, Okoye, and Nakia, in theory, this will be a 3/4 hit by Okoye, comes out for free, which is not bad. And then if you happen to have it, you have to top deck it and then play Nakia onto it's just the top deck side of it, which is very weird. I don't know, man. I don't like it in Silver Surfer at all. Plus, the best versions of Silver Surfer, whether it's straight up Silver Surfer or Surfer Patriot, are going to be using Brood and Absorbing Man. And I think that we can get cute and fancy and start cutting those cards. But I don't think that, I don't think you can. I think those cards are way too impactful for that archetype. And then what you play down a Brood, and then Makkari just blocks that lane off. You're like, well, screw me, I guess, right? I think the card is potentially problematic from the randomness standpoint.
So the only, that good points, by the way. That kind of sums up why I don't think it's just going to be a Surfer card. You like Surfer, play this card. The one place where I thought, you know what, this is actually kind of cool, is I think decks, now they got rid of Goliath, but decks that do love priority, this could be cool. So you could have it, you could get it in the first turn, it plays itself. You're probably having a good shot from that point on to assert yourself with priority. And then you play things like Negasonic, disruption decks to have, Spider-Man or Polaris pull things around, kind of those toxic mobster decks. It's an early priority card, and that's kind of rare in the game. And I think if you do, before turn 3, you probably have a decent chance to get her on a consistent basis there. It's half the game. That's where I kind of like her. We just don't have enough of those cards, though, that love priority.
You know where Makkari is incredible? TVA games.
TVA, there it is, man. There's the clip right there. 5-star
I
card.
do have an actual deck, though. I do have
Okay.
an actual deck. There is one place where I think Makkari might be legitimately fantastic in, and it's Cerebro 3.
Yeah.
Because it comes down as a 3,
True.
and oftentimes with Cerebro, you just want bodies on the board, and you're often in situations where you're like, man, I can't play everything. Cerebro can't dump its hand as effectively as, say, a Silver Surfer can. So you might be in a situation where you top deck Makkari, and you're able to play Mystique and Cerebro on that turn and have Makkari come fill a location, which I think is pretty cool. That's the one place where I think it might be very applicable.
Especially C3, C2, it's like you can usually dump a lot easier. You have cheaper cards. C3, like sometimes you're kind of getting up there with just like awkward cards. And yeah, that's a great point. We actually didn't give our star ratings on it, dude. I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, if Martyr's a 1, you're gonna give it a 2. Yeah, it was like 1.5, 2, something like that.
I think it's better than
Probably
1.5.
2.
I'm going to go
Yeah.
2. I think 2 is good, but
I think 2's fine.
I don't see this card does not have the ceiling. I want to be wrong because if it's a 3 drop, that somehow no, I'm not wrong. It's a 2.
Yeah, I think it's a 2. I think it's a 2 as well. So Makkari gives you a chance to save up some needed spotlight tokens, keys, whatevs. All right, next up, man, we got Phastos. Speaking of Surfer and kind of where it might work, and this is definitely a very interesting card. This is where it's like we have this season full of potential, and I wanted to put like greatest season. It's a cool season. Phastos kicks that off, brings more to the table at a 3 cost, 3 power card. On reveal, you're going to give each card either -1 cost or +2 power. And, just before the star ratings, the easiest way to think of this is sometimes you're going to have a 1 cost, 7 power card. Sometimes he's going to be a 0 cost card and have like, +5 stats. And sometimes he's just not going to be that great of a dividend and it's not going to affect you enough. I think this guy has some hyper cool potential. And I also think he's the key to cards like Gilgamesh that we just talked about earlier. This is going to be the Theorycraft card of the month, man, and definitely the hardest up there with Thena to rank. Let's go star ratings. What do you think?
I'm leaning towards this being a 4-star card. I think that the +2 power in and of itself is huge. I think that the -1 cost can be huge. The randomness, I think, is a problem. I don't like the randomness. I like consistency. I like knowing what's in my deck and how it's been impacted. But I mean, you're not going to complain at -1 cost, and you're not going to complain at +2 power. Both of these are phenomenally strong effects. But I think that lack of consistency does take a star off. And for me, I'm going 4. I'm going 4.
Yeah, dude, it's another one. Yeah, I was like 3.5 or 4. The thing is, okay, so synergy-wise, there's not like a wide plethora of direct synergy that he can work with. But he also has everlasting synergy, right? And cards that have that, we've seen stand the test of time. They can just work in so many different decks and builds and new things. I do agree there's going to be times where it feels bad. It reminds me of a card, kind of like Hope Summers to some degree. You need to play it on curve. Like, you want to play it on 3, and you're going to get a huge benefit from that. Outside of that, he's just like, dude, a turn 6, it's a useless card. A turn 4, 5, that's where I want to go down to like a 3.5. Because it's draw order for me that makes me a bit nervous here. But the potential is pretty great. Let's talk about the synergy there. Now, Alex, right off the bat, let's just say Surfer. And you brought up Gilgamesh working in potential Surfer. You've got yourself a card that's instantly going to work with Gilgamesh, making him way better. When a card gets a +1 power buff or loses, like Stature or Black Bolt, we're like, oh my God, they're terrible. It's giving you +2, and that adds up pretty fast. And so that's where I do like him. Do you think he makes the cut for Surfer?
I don't know. Like, I got to figure out like what that Surfer deck looks like. I mean, in theory, very strong with Brood, Mr. Sinister. So then therefore, you think about like Absorb Man, those types of combinations, but he has to come out on 3. So that delays your turn order, right? So like you play Phastos and you would have to top deck Brood or top deck Absorbing Man with Brood or whatever it is. Those lines look a little more difficult. I'm not sure. And I feel like it's the kind of card, like in terms of synergistic cards, I think magic is kind of an important consideration here, because anything that can delay the game and give you that additional draw, like I see this similarly as the way I would evaluate like a Mr. Negative, where you want to reach into your deck more and more, because the further you reach into your deck, the bigger the advantage is, right, with Phastos. But like, I don't know, like even Iron Man, hitting an Iron Man would be huge too.
Either way, you hit it too. Like, I think, okay, so in a nutshell, I think you lean into one of the two. And what I mean by that is you go potentially, let's go the negative cost route, right? I throw Ravonna Renslayer in there. Why do that? Yeah, she's a little awkward because he gives +2 power, but at the end of the day, I feel like when you lean into these -1 costs, you can start to really kind of get it, snowballing, if you will. But on the same vein, you play 2 into 3. You do a Koye on 2. 3 is Phastos. And then you want to reach into that deck. Maybe the Ravona's not the best example, but I do think that he's one of those where you lean into one of those, and then you get much bigger profit at the end of it.
The challenge that I see here is if I'm taking a look at like Silver Surfer, for example, which I don't want to focus on, but like Okoye, although is +1 power, is a consistent +1 power. Hope Summers, although not -1 cost, is a consistent 1 additional energy. So like you have these effects where like you can do Phastos, which is a 2 for 1, but you don't get to pick the effect. You don't know which card's going to be impacted. And like Okoye and Hope have a very consistent cadence to them that you can rely on. So like I don't know, the ceiling feels so high with Phastos, but at the same time, like I just don't like the inconsistency.
Right, I know. As I said, he seems more consistent. There's like, as in like his effect per se than Pixie. You're right, the inconsistency is there because it almost makes you want to just drop him down to 3. Because if you think about it too, like let's talk about a deck that does really well that you kind of want to do stuff early. Clog decks, you want to get your stuff going as fast as possible. Okay, well, let's say we lean into some 5 cost there. Hobgoblin, a Nihilist. Well, great, but you don't want to give your Hobgoblin power. You don't want to. It's just awkward. It can be a bit awkward. If it does work out, it definitely works out in the right way. It just makes me nervous about the randomness behind him. And 3/3 is obviously not a good stat line just in itself, right? And you have to play him on curve. I'd almost like him as a 2/2, and then you play him a bit earlier and you have a bit better chance. But then I guess that just completely kills Okoye. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally see what you're saying. I mean, I got a potential deck that might work. Like, what about Thanos? Like, in theory, you're buffing stones pretty significantly here. I think this will take the stones to 0.
Arishem and Thanos both, I think, are going to get love from this, right? Because more cards, the better. Everything's going to be kind of working in theory. Thanos, you're going to be drawing on top of that, right? So, you're going to get access to even more of those. This could be a very good Thanos card at that. Definitely a great point here. He's a tough one, man. What about, like, She-Hulk and Scar, right? You have these, like, okay, those are 2 cards you're kind of fine with. Maybe not Scar as much, but She-Hulk is all right. +2 power, -1 cost, you're good. Again, leaning into the cost power thing. Maybe Sasquatch at that too, like kind of the same deal. Like you don't mind if it costs even less, or if it has, he's a 12 power card.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in the game that does not like being 1 cost cheaper or 2 power better, right? Yeah. That's kind of where this card's power is. It's like, hey, everything benefits from this. There is no card. I mean, there's got to be. I mean, you mentioned Ravonna kind of destroys some synergies there. Can't play it in Cerebro, obviously. Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like we might miss low on this. I can see this card being in like the deck of the month. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I could totally see that happening.
Yeah, and that's the problem with this season. I think there's a lot of this is going to be one of the tougher ones to evaluate, and probably one we get the most flack on looking back. Like, I'm not going to be surprised just because of the pure like actually playing you're going to have to do with these cards in different decks. See how they work out. We mentioned them. Let's get to them. Arishem. Oh my God, the animation on this on the trailer, if you guys haven't seen it, is so insane, man. This card we thought was a meme when we talked about it. I actually think it's going to be actually pretty good. It's 7/7. First 7 cost in a Marvel Snap, 7 power. At the start of the game, +1 max energy, think Electro. But you're going to shuffle 12 random cards into your deck, right? At the start of the game doesn't mean you get to draw cards, then it shuffles them. No. It's going to be District X meets Electro. Going to be chaos. Let's talk about it. Star rating right off the bat, buddy. What do you think? This is another tough one.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards a 3-star card, but like it's like 5-star from a collection standpoint. Like you want this in your collection, but from a competitive, like actual resource usage standpoint, I think it's 3.
I don't know. I think for the average player, it's probably like a 3, maybe even worse. But then for a good player, and not to like pigeonhole you guys, but like how adaptive are you with random cards at different locations? Yeah, man, it could be even better than a 3. I think 3 is a good baseline. I think that's just a fair, like, kind of either way. But when I think about it, I try to build out a deck with this card, okay? And hear me out. If you build this deck, almost all these just work with the deck. And then anything else you just get to, play like crazy. And what's great about it is that +1 max energy, bro, that's nothing to scoff at. I mean, you're playing a 2-cost card on turn 1 immediately, then 3, then 4. Whereas, like, ramp decks, it's kind of all at the end, right?
Yeah.
Hear me out. Hear me out. All right. So first of all, let's just go and get Alex nice and cooked up. All right. He's gonna get so excited. Just take it easy. Take a drink of water, if you will. This is it, man. This is the Watu deck. This is it. Here he is. You actually brought this up when we talked about the cards a few months ago. You just want Watu in the deck, man. You don't care. He's gonna be one of the 20 plus cards in the deck, but you get to see locations.
I'm like, are my glasses defective? Like, am I actually seeing this correctly?
He's right
What is
there.
happening here? This is the most inebriated Cozy I've ever seen. Are we actually unironically talking about Uatu the Watcher being a legitimate component of an Arishem deck?
Bro, I think so. Think about these cards. I'm going to name some other ones, but they just work in the deck. They're just good to have in there. You're hoping not to pull them still, obviously. We have Sunspot. Not bad. You get the extra energy per turn. Might as well just soak it on into him. No big deal. Quinjet obviously is going to be in there because you can play cards even cheaper. So now technically you play Quinjet out on whatever, turn 1 or 2. Remember, you're not restricted to playing cards. You can effectively play +2 energy cards every turn. Like on turn 2, you can play a 4-power card, man. That's just stupid strong synergy. Love that. What goes with that? Obviously something like Loki. Okoye, to your point. Building up, or Phastos building up this deck is going to be disgusting. Love the Jubilee and Blink package. Pull them out. Just get better cards. You can get that no matter what. And then finally, I think She-Hulk and Scar are going to work because it's the same thing. And big cards from there on out. Just putting big cards in the deck. How is that going to be bad? I don't think it will be outside of the randomness.
Yeah, there's a lot of randomness, but like most cards in Marvel Snap are designed to be good, right? Like even if you have a Crossbones now, hey, you can probably play it somewhere, right? I want to touch on a couple things. You brought up a lot of cards there. And like, I think Blink's huge. I think it's important. Now, it's hard to find the Blink in the deck because obviously the deck is diluted. However, what's notable is that like Blink allows you to target what potentially might be a large card in the deck, right? If you have like a kind of poo-poo 4-drop, you're like, man, whatever, I'll just play this out, but I'll blink it and maybe I'll hit like a She-Hulk or a Hulk or whatever, a Red Hulk or anything bigger than the 4-drop you played. That's probably going to be pretty cool, right? It gives that ability to seek into the deck and find out what's there. Another key synergy, which I actually was excited for, which a card that kind of fell apart after its nerf, is Blob. This is obviously a Blob card, isn't it?
Yeah, dude, that's right. Yeah, Blob can easily work in the deck. It's interesting because like you're gonna have games where you're gonna have Phoenix Force and you're like, well, I didn't kill anything. Like that's gonna happen, but that happens with other decks too. The biggest bonus here is you have a deck that no one knows what you're playing, and that's huge. It's something like Conquest. We don't know what a new game mode might be, but if it leans into that concept, another great addition to that. But yeah, Blob is an awesome one, and just again, big power cards because early game you can play the random stuff. You know, the 2, the 3 you get. Maybe you get a Jeff. Maybe a Calling Wing. You don't care. You're just playing out the power. But then as you get the later turns, you're cooking, and you just play out the Magneto, the She-Hulk, the Blob, where you're going to actually have a good chance to win. Very cool design here with more cards than we think that should fit the mold. The randomness is going to hurt, but it can also help you. And I think it's going to be a really interesting card in Snap. And again, not exactly a meme.
All right, so you cooked to start us off. Now let me cook a little bit too. Okay,
Cook.
Cozy, I hope you're ready for this. Okay, one of them I think is a really good competitive one, and the other one's a pure cook. First, technically, if you play Wave on turn 2, okay, they can't play any of their discounted 6-drops to 4 because they still have 3 energy, but you will have 4 energy.
Okay.
So I think that's key. If you play Wave out on turn 2 with that extra energy, you can actually play a Doctor Doom, a turn early, whereas your opponent's like, damn it, my Doctor Doom is still 4 cost, and I have 3 energy. That's the one. But the second, which might be an absolute this might be pure huff in the hopium hard. But in theory, I think one of the challenges around Arishem is you need to draw cards. And who draws cards in Marvel Snap? Adam Warlock. Can you imagine playing Adam Warlock on turn 4? Is there a chance that he actually starts drawing things or what?
Yo, Adam Warlock. I think he could fit in the build, probably. Yeah, I don't hate it. A 4/5 is still just like bad. like, I don't know. He's still like a bad card per se. But you're right. You get access to more of those cards, man. Maybe you boosted them up with Okoye and Phastos. I could see a world. I thought you were going to go the meme route, like the uber meme route. And I had to bring it up. Listen, like, how do I not? Hey, imagine the ultimate combo here. Hold on. Agatha.
I don't think this is memeing. I think this might be legitimate.
Right, dude? Like, remember when I was like, yeah, Corvus Agatha, and it was actually a decent deck? This is like the final piece for Agatha, man, because she's going to count as a card that you pull out of it. And then on top of that, you could play her early without doing anything.
Yeah, there's a key thing about Agatha that a lot of players may not realize. Well, I mean, relatively new players. Agatha is an additional card in your hand. That's not inherently obvious. It is an additional card that is there in addition to your draws. So one of the challenges of Arishem is going to be that you want to have stuff in your hand to play that isn't just pure random garbage. Now, Agatha's going to start no matter what. Also, no matter what, Agatha's going to be played on turn 5 because she's going to, anytime she's able to be played, she plays herself. It's part of the code, right? So that gives you turn, no, I said turn 5. Yeah, so turn 5, you get a 5-14, and turn 6, you get to cook with your hand, right? With 7 energy.
Yep.
So I do not think it's a meme. I think it might actually be legitimate.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we get an Agatha deck that can, perform semi-well. Like, even like a 48, 50% win rate would be wild. And it's the ultimate form of chaos, man. It's like the ultimate content. Might be what I do on day 1 with her, or with him, that is. We move on to the last card, but is that everything for your boy?
I mean, Umbaku, but I don't know. That might be too far.
Hey, no, it's never too far. It's never too far. Listen, you get M'Baku, you get Quicksilver. We can put them together. What else? We got Watu in the deck. You might as well just lean into it,
If you play Phastos on turn 3 and M'Baku is hiding in the deck, and he comes jumping out as a 1/4 or as like a 0/2.
A 0/2, that'd be so depressing. Yeah. I mean, he goes to the winning location now, which is obviously, is it winning or losing location? Dude,
losing location. I don't remember. They changed them. That was like the worst patch. It's like, everyone wants M'Baku to get buffed. Let's do nothing to him while changing his text.
I'm pretty sure that was the Adam Warlock one too, man. It's just complete ass. Well, we go to the last card in Sersi, and very cool card here. Very cool card, both lore-wise, but also just what it does. 5 cost, 7 power card on reveal. Transform your other cards at the location you play into random cards that cost 1 more. So it's a blink, but even more randomness, and it affects all the cards on the location. Oof. Talk about another tough card to talk about here. What do you got, man? What do you got for Sersi? Star rating.
I wrote down 2/3, like a very tentative 3, maybe. Like,
oh, okay.
I would say 3, but I'm not happy nor confident about it. Like, I'm gonna go 3, but I don't like it.
I'm going with like an easy 3, and I'm not gonna get trapped this time.
Really?
I get
Easy
excited.
3?
Easy 3. I get excited about these cards. Easy 3 is what I'm gonna give it. The biggest problem is Blink exists, just a better card. Blink, like, probably it's more targeted. We love these kind of cards, but they are random, and there are things that can happen that severely screw you. The upside here is much bigger than Blink in a lot of ways. There's a lot of cool combo plays that you can play. Not a lot of awkward ways to play her too, and there is some really great... Again, sometimes you don't want to build... Like, she's just better in universal decks, I think, because it's like, you play down Leech on 5, 6, you didn't have to put the card in your deck, and you're just like, all right, let's cook. What do you have? Again, scary, but also what's scary is the synergy she has. She's not going to be broken. She's not going to be crazy. I think she's middle of the pack, but she has some really cool upside, and I think we could end up being wrong about her, and she's really good, or, maybe not as much. Let's go and talk synergy, man, and I'll let you kick it off. I got a lot here, but I'll give it to you.
Okay, I have one major one I want to talk about, and you're going to laugh, Cozy, but he just got buffed, and there's a world where you can Grandmaster Sersi for absolute anarchy and potentially a whole lot of value. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just going to throw it to the wind there.
Just
not high on
in.
Sersi, but I'm high on Grandmaster.
Just lean in hard on it. Hey, I don't hate... When you start to combine all these crazy cards, you might get yourself a good deck. Like Pixie, Grandmaster, Sersi, and then you kind of have like all this like random pop-off. But hey, calculated chaotic randomness is a good thing, maybe. Obviously, we have cards like Destroyer. You have cards that could just ruin you, not do anything that you want, like a Sandman when you wanted to play more cards. But let's just talk about the obvious one here. I think it's not like, hey, I think this is what's cool about it. Let me pump the brakes. It's not the last card you played. It's everything in a location, man. So let's say you are like, what I love about her is, let's say you're down big. Like that guy got you got a Jubilee into something, and you're like, oh, damn, I'm not going to win that location. And you already committed like 3 cards there. Bro, Sersi is like the ultimate, like, let's roll those dice again and see what we get. And there are ways to do that, effectively that you're building up to. You play cards with good on reveals, bad stats, and then you're able to capitalize on that. Something like an Iceman, whatever that might be. Or you do that with something like Brood, and you have an instantaneous lane, no matter what, getting 3 cards into 4 cards. Dude, you're getting 3 cards that are 3 costs into 3 4-cost cards. That's awesome. That's so cool, and 4 costs are pretty good too.
Yeah, because you get like Mr. Negative into Absorbing Man into Mr. Negative again.
I was waiting it. Yeah, 2 Mr. Negatives. What a that's copium if anything. All right. Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
I'm just kidding. I want to see the clip of Cozy playing Mr. Sinister and then Cerseiing the Mr. Sinister and getting Mr. Negative into Absorbing Man. Yeah, so just like the nothing play.
I'm looking at like the worst possible place. You got like a Namor into I don't know. Yeah, you Namor. Namor to Tuma into Shuri that you can't play another card on there, or Shang-Chi for no. Yeah, listen, it's definitely, that's why we gave her a 3. But then you also have the upside of playing, here in the middle. You get Miss Marvel. I don't know. You get other big static cards. There's cool potential there with the synergy. But I also think as just like a baseline card, she's going to have great value in decks like you're playing Mockingbird and you want to have these random cards. She can help out, get that Mockingbird nice and cheap. Or Alex, I think we talked about this whenever it released. Just something as simple as White Tiger, man. You play White Tiger down, you get the Tiger, it does the thing, and then you have the chance to get a decently good 6 cost like Null, as you would say.
Something that's pretty interesting as well, and this is one of the play lines I've kind of planned around, and I don't know if it's going to work, but in theory, you could wave 3, play something like a Doctor Doom on 4, turn 5, Sersi the Doctor Doom, which has to hit Arishem, no? And then Arishem's going to give you an additional energy, and then stuff your deck full of cards. But technically, you should have an additional energy, no?
Yeah, it's true. That could work. That's right. Wait, Doctor.
Or you can just play Electro.
Oh yeah, because it would go into because now that we have a 7, it's like they have something to go into, and for that matter, I guess Blink does too. And not like it'd still be chaotic. Okay, just a little bit of a cook. What about this? We just mentioned him. What about Baron Zemo? I kind of think this is a fun card with it because you play down Baron, you steal a card, right? You have 2 cards, easy, nice lane, filling. But then you're able to upgrade Baron to a 4, and then whatever you took to just a better option with the on reveal.
You know what's going to happen, though, with Sersi? You're going to do that, and then Cersei's going to betray you so hard, you're like, I'm never playing this again. Like, that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
The idea is beautiful, and then you're going to get a Tuma, and you're going to be like, thanks for nothing, bro. Like, I don't know if she can get 2 Atumas. That'd be hilarious. I don't know if she can like proc the same card twice. That would be absolutely hilarious.
The full Brood lane goes into 3 Atumas. They just all die.
It just deletes you.
Yeah. That's when you got the Null on deck, though. You got that 30 power Null ready to go. Yeah, I agree. I think there's gonna be we're gonna have to see it play out, and just like remember like Loki, people didn't like because it's like you don't want the other cards. It's like, well, there's just good cards in Snap, but I think there are things you're gonna get punished for, but there are some good synergies here.
You watch this. You play Zemo. You pull their 1 cost. You have 2 in the lane. You play Sersi on top. You turn Zemo into Hellcow, right? And then the 1-drop into Atuma. And like you're like, nice.
That's the fastest retreat of your life. You pre-snapped too because you thought it was gonna just pop off there. You got the full thing. On a serious note though, I do think Junk is gonna like her. I think she'll fit into that mold anyway. You play Sentry down. You don't have a Nihilist. You can change the Void from a -8 into a 5-cost card. Arguably, that's going to be your best thing, is doing a 4 to a 5. 5s are all pretty much good. There's not a lot of bad 5s out there with, there's a few, but there's not a ton. I think that's probably going to be your best bet if you're going for more of the safer option. Sarah, too, I like the idea of dumping cards out, and then it's like, all right, final turn, it's turn 6. You can play a 4-cost Sersi and 2 other cards. And you look at all the lanes, you're like, I'm losing this one. I'll play Sersi in there, and I'll buff up my other lane here. I do think there's some stuff there potentially as well. Maybe Sarah comes back. That's like the main focus that I would give Sersi. But yeah, she might be too random for her own good, but 5/7 is also not terrible stats.
The way you described that last interaction where you Sarah then play Sersi on the final turn of the game to try and take a shot, it reminds me of like fantasy football when like you're doing a draft and you're like, oh, this guy has high potential. He's like the reaching for the stars, right? He's
Yeah.
the guy that might go get the pop off when you need him most, right? And then like that's Sersi. Well, I'm losing that lane. It can't get any worse. So let's see if we high roll and you just throw it. But like, are you really gonna go 8 cubes on Sersi high rolling?
And that guy either wins the championship or he comes in last place, right? Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it
He gets
is.
injured on the first play. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, man. We'll have to see. I think she's fun. I think if Blink didn't come out, we'd be a lot more interested into what this does. Blink just seems like better consistency and all that good jazz. But definitely will be an interesting card, none of the less. Let's go and give our final rankings, Alex. We talked about all of them. Let's go ahead and put it into one show, which typically this is easy because we just go what we rank the stars. But most of these are 3s, couple 4s in there. Let's start. Worst card of the month is, we can both say it,
Makkari.
Makkari. After that,
We're going worst to best.
where's the best?
Oh man, now I'm stressed out. I'm looking at. I probably lean towards Sersi.
Sersi. Okay. All right. I want to say as of the moment, probably. Oh man, probably Phastos. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Dude, this month's tough. What do you have after Sersi?
After Sersi, I would lean towards probably Thena, and then I would go towards Phastos. I think
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. No, Arishem, Phastos, and then top. I think Gilgamesh is probably the best.
Yeah, which is crazy because we didn't even give him like a crazy good ranking. But I think over time he'll be the best. I would agree with that same order leading up to it. With something like Phastos and Thena having such a big question mark around them, we'll have to see. But either way, we got a lot to talk about, and we're going to do what we did last month and come back to it as our final rankings, hold Alex and I accountable, and what was one of the best seasons. So excited about that. We've got ourselves IGN Live. We're going to speculate on what that might be. And then, of course, the Snapchat mailbag. You guys have a good one. Have a great one. Till the next one. Happy snapping.